When it comes to astrology, there's a lot of misrepresentation or misunderstanding of information, especially when it comes to social media. One of the areas that I see misrepresented often is that of the eighth house. The eighth house is one of 4 dark houses. These are houses that can't be seen by the ascendant, which is representative of us within the chart, our bodies. And so because the eighth house is one of these 4 dark houses, a house that doesn't make any aspect to the first house, it can't be seen readily by us. There's obviously nuance here when we look to the ruler of the first house, ruler of the house that we're looking at. Can they see each other? But primarily, these houses are not in our full awareness. Going back in history, Manilius describes the eighth house as the house of Typhon. Mythologically speaking, Typhon was a monster serpent who is said to have been born of Gaia and Tartarus. Tartarus was not a figure, but a deep pit within the earth in which evildoers went after they died, and it is also where the Titans were imprisoned. This connection to Typhon, in my opinion, reflects the association of the eighth house to this title it's been offered, the gates of Hades. When we look to the chart as a whole, the houses, you can imagine that the ascendant is where the sun is rising on the horizon. Up at the top where the midheaven is where we would find noon, where the sun is at its highest point. And then the 7th house, the descendant, is where it sets. The 8th house is that moment before setting. It is that moment before the end of life. It is representative of death, that twilight just before the end. And so if we follow that storyline, we see themes of death, inheritance, fear, anguish, loss, penalty. It's a place that represents these darker themes in our lives. And when we look to society, we often see these themes coming up in shady ways. We have tax fraud and people fighting over inheritance, amongst a myriad of other taboo topics. One of the words that stands out to me, though, as an 8th houser, is this word fear. Daniel Norman has reflected that the 8th house is a place that we go to hide things from others, whereas some place like the 12th house is a place where we hide things from ourselves. Now remember that the 8th house is a dark house still, so it is still a place where we are not fully conscious of these things that we're hiding. There are probably shadowy parts that we are trying to escape within ourselves in that 8th place. Now, many people, especially in modern astrology, know the natural houses as the first house being associated with Aries, second house being associated with Taurus. However, the traditional natural house system puts Cancer in the first house, the Thema Mundi. Now, if we look at the chart from that perspective, this puts Aquarius in the 8th house. When we think of Aquarius as a sign, the sun is not happy here, it's in detriment. There is a deep feeling of not being seen. There is a deep fear that exists of being seen. The 8th house, one of the themes is that of power and power dynamics. And so in that 8th place where the sun exists, in spite of a deep desire to be seen, that 8th house sun also deeply fears it. And so here there is deep subconscious work that must be done to overcome that fear and to be able to be visible to the outside world.